Welcome back to another video, and this time we are flipping it around super quick because we have another back-to-back, and we are headed just across the pond all the way to Japan. That's contradictory because I said all the way, but it's across the pond. But anyway, what are you going to do? We are in Japan, a track that is sometimes wet, sometimes typhoony, sometimes dry, but it looks like our spell of cool weather may be over, and we are going to have a very warm standard hot Grand Prix in Japan, which hopefully, off the back of a very interesting Singapore Grand Prix, which you should check out our debrief if you have not seen it already.
Should check
Plenty
out the
to talk about.
Check out the race as well if you haven't seen it. My God.
Yeah. Probably more importantly, we may be in for a good one here.
Yes.
Some teams that maybe are on a bit of a back foot. Hey, can they sort out what's going on before they come to another technical, difficult circuit that, as we say, may be extremely warm as well.
Yep.
But Japan, I mean, this is often a favorite. You know, one that was obviously hit by COVID, so we hadn't been here for a little bit sometimes in the past. But what are you looking forward to? I presume you're also a fan of this one.
I love Japan. Just the circuit. It's not super high on overtaking, but it is a real driver's circuit. This one, like you're hard pressed to find a driver that doesn't like Suzuka.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is very, very technical. It's kind of got a bit of everything. It's got low, medium, high speed, and as you say, it is going to be incredibly hot there for given this time of year, or I guess given how hot it normally is there. I suppose it's already.
Well, it can be so variable. So for it to be this year, as hot as it
true,
can be.
True. Yeah. But it's a very abrasive, rough circuit. They've been saying Pirelli have been saying it's like the roughest, most abrasive circuit they've come to so far this year. It's already a high tire deg circuit because you need a lot of downforce. There's a lot of high speed corners, so it's already pretty hard on the tires.
A lot of load, yep.
A lot of lateral load, yeah. So they do bring the C1, C2, C3, the three, not including the C0, the three hardest tires. And if you add extra heat into that, then do we have a potential 2-3 stopper race? Like I feel like this is one of those races that a 2-stopper is usually the viable option, I feel like, just because the wear is so high. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, we've seen the last few races strategy, pit stop strategy be exceptionally important in terms of where you end up, and particularly on, like I say, a circuit where overtaking is not the easiest. Pit stop strategy is going to be very, very important.
Yeah, it should be really good. It's hard to say. Like, it could come down to a race where it's in a super management race, and those that can really manage things might slow down the pace a bit to see how they go, or it may just be quicker to guns out blaze, given that we're on those hardest compounds which we haven't ran for a little bit. Just because you have a soft, it may still be quite durable, or something that you can get a lot of pace out of. Even compared to a C1 versus a C3, the delta can be so massive given the type of track this is, and given that often we do see massive gaps between those tire ranges and the type of pace you can get from them.
True.
That you can do kind of an outsider strategy depending on where you are. And given that it is quite tricky to follow and overtake, it means that doing an undercut or an overcut very much can happen here. But then if you get stuck in traffic, part of what happened in Singapore, it could change things as well. So I guess, we were referencing the fact that Red Bull obviously coming back from, their worst weekend of the year by far. It is a very different circuit here. Of course, it's kind of their pseudo home circuit in a way for Honda. They've obviously done well here in the past. I mean, this is where they had the confusion around the title, if you remember as well. It's quite easy to forget that kind of fast that happened. So if I guess they're on track. Well, I don't know if they are, because they
said they were on track. They were on track.
Everyone going to Singapore was talking about how this is where Red Bull need to do. It's going to be quite unlucky, but they could get
assuming they did well there. Yeah.
Yes, and they did so poor. So I think just with how things work, they're still likely to get it here, but maybe it's not as much of a shoo-in as it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into predictions, but again, in a vacuum, you would expect Max, especially with his history here, to be quite strong.
Yep.
I haven't, I guess, checked what they need to do, but they would, although they want to wrap things up as soon as they can, they definitely want to try to wrap things up here for the team. Given again, it's Honda's homeland. So
Definitely.
but I guess it depends how strong we think they are going to be here. If one driver or both drivers we think have it in the bag, or if it might be a bit more interesting than that. But it's hard to say without seeing cars on the track, which of course we haven't yet.
Yeah, and it's even harder to see, obviously, given that last weekend where they were so poor.
Yeah.
Now there's
Exactly.
I say it possibly not a definite. Red Bull, both of them on the podium, or Max P1 definite, because if they haven't sorted out those issues, or if it wasn't a track specific thing like they seem to think it is, then they could be in for some more hurt. But we'll have to see.
Especially when a few other teams seem to be on the ball, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There could be some similar characteristics here. Very difficult circuit, high wear and such. So it means I'm looking forward to it, as I have for most races this year, and especially because
Sunday afternoon.
It's on a very decent time, so that's very nice.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see if we can maybe do a bit of a live post-race reaction right after as well. We'll see if we can,
right. Yeah.
Sneak something in there and get some some thoughts hot off the press is what I was trying to say.
Visceral thoughts. Yeah.
Visceral thoughts. There you go. But we do have to go into our predictions. I know I've hinted at it. I've certainly ranted to you a lot about this. I did correctly predict that this wouldn't be the weekend without Max on the podium.
I don't know what the problem is. I see no problem with these predictions.
We unfortunately didn't put any sort of prize or a wager on there for getting that sort of thing right.
This is your fault. You're the one who's running this.
It's true. I can only blame myself. I should have put something extra on there, but irrespective, I still want to point out that I am, although it was quite partly luck, I guess I have used my token now to say that Max is not going to appear on the podium, and this could be a good pick for you to do it. Don't know if that's what you're alluding to, but I guess we'll have to just find out.
Yes.
But we do need to recap.
Get to the important part first. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So you also got, maybe quite fortunately, or you just, could see the future given how much you love Singapore.
Love it.
You not only got the Lando and the Hamilton in second and third, bang on, but you also got the Piastri for P7, which I think is a brilliant selection there. So you get a whopping 4 out of a possible 5, which deserves a round of applause.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, you have. For as much as I was talking about having a gap and where I might throw it away this weekend, that has indeed happened because I only got half a point for Lando being on the podium but in the wrong spot. Maybe thought I was still hoping that he would overtake at the end there. Yeah. He was close to his credit, but it wasn't good enough. Should have put some more red up the front there, but I did not.
I don't think. If you gave me 10 more attempts at getting perfect points, I would not be putting Sainz in the lead. Like, yeah. I just didn't believe they'd have the racecraft. So anyway, fair play.
That's fair enough. So it means that you are leading by a point now. You are on 29.5, and I'm on 28.5. So
don't know how that happened.
The championship may not be close, but this championship is bloody close. So it's quite exciting.
Real good.
Indeed. Yes. But we do need to get our random prediction for those lovely 2 points. See if I can get this one, so we can I can get my lead back as I deserve.
Okay, here we go. It's already happening.
So we will have to check, and it will be for P10.
Okay. Final
the
point
last
scores.
of the points. This one always goes to a random Alpha, Haas, Williams, someone. I feel like.
Yep. I'll go Tsunoda. I think he's going to bounce back and get some points this weekend. He's had a couple. He's had a couple of DNFs the last couple of weekends, and I think even though maybe that team
hasn't even finished a bloody lap in 2 races.
yeah, it's a good point. He was out before the race even started at Monza. Yeah. No, I think I'm not even necessarily sure that car will be. I don't know the severity of their updates, how quick they'll actually be here, but I think Tsunoda will bounce back and get back onto the points the first race in Prix that he's finished.
This is a home race too. I might think even he might finish a little higher. So
fair enough.
That's a good pick. I wouldn't be surprised to see him higher, but that's not what we're predicting. I guess I will go for maybe one of those outsides, and maybe I'll think that Zhao will sneak into the points and get a P10.
Okay.
I think I'll give him a little bit of a shout. See how he goes. So we'll have to see.
I don't know how long it's been since Alfa Romeo have been in the points. How long has it been? I feel like that's a bold shout. I feel like that's a really bold shout.
Didn't one of them get points in Monza? Yeah, Bottas got P10.
Bottas, yeah. Okay. Maybe it's not as far off. I just feel like the last sort of 8 races, they've just been fucking nowhere. So,
yeah, it's true. It's true. But hey, this is my prediction. I'm going for it. And if you streak ahead, then so be it. I'll give you credit.
It's all right. And now that I'm leading, I need to undermine your every decision. So
that's true. I have been doing that for a while, gloating about it. So go ahead. You do deserve to do so. Yeah. We do, I guess, need to then get to the big 3. I guess I would get out the way that yes, I am putting Max on the top because why wouldn't you? So
Yes.
I'll get that out the way, and that will probably be copy paste for the remainder of the year, unless for some reason 2 weekends in a row they're poor, and then maybe you get a freebie for the competition anyway. But I guess curious for you, what are you thinking?
I still have Max P1.
Okay.
I do think this Singapore thing was a track specific thing. I think, like you say, they just brought the wrong setup. If you obviously watch or listen to our debrief of Singapore, you talk about how they brought a couple of flaws and they had to raise their ride height and all that. They had to try all these things to fix what was ultimately the wrong setup they brought for that.
Yep.
That circuit. And I do think that's all it was. And I don't think they'll make that same mistake for Suzuka. I do think a couple of teams could be close, but yeah, I think Max has, even at the end of qualifying, I think he already took it in stride, and he's just like, you know what, we'll just look towards getting the best points possible and then bounce back for Japan, and I think that's exactly what he'll do.
Yep.
And I think he'll be a relatively comfortable P1 in the end. So, yeah.
Yep. I think then the interesting bit is behind him, what's going to happen. I mean, we alluded that, the Red Bulls could be, trying to closing out the constructors here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their number 2 driver will be able to also follow it up. And then if you consider him not there, well, then where do you see the rest of the crowd? It's kind of the form book. It's partly out the window. I mean, you'd be bold to go for someone like an Aston at this point. As I said in our last weekend, that was my kind of last saving grace to bet on them. That's not happening again.
This will be Alonso's P2 now, won't it?
Yeah, no, it's P1. Great.
Oh god. Yeah.
So we'll have to see. But I guess P2, maybe because I'm being a bit safe and I want to go into the hype train. I've put Mister on his what do you call it? On a roll, Mr. Sainz in P2. I didn't really check to see how good that car normally is here. All I really remember is that Max likes it around here, to be honest. So, but again, when we were, especially myself, going to last weekend thinking how poor they would be, and yet they seemed to just set everything up right, and they played all their cards so well.
Yeah.
At another track where wear could be high, temperatures could be high, he's going to be on a buzz. The team obviously going to have learned a few things. And although someone like the McLaren or the Mercedes may be quick, if you consider them at a similar level, which I do, just give it to the guy that's on a roll, right? That's I think the safest way to play it myself. So I have put Sainz in P2, but how about yourself? What direction are you going?
I've got Norris P2.
Okay, yep.
So I think he's on a high from getting P2 last week.
Yeah.
So,
It's interchangeable.
yeah. And I think I know Sainz and that Ferrari, but yeah, Sainz in particular, it obviously is a lot stronger than maybe we first thought. I think that in terms of the tire degradation from Singapore to Japan, I think it is going to be different. In terms of Singapore,
good call.
It's more about the overheating aspect, whereas I think in Japan it is going to be the tires are just going to fall apart. And I think that plays against Ferrari quite a bit. I think they can manage, particularly with Sainz being out ahead pretty much the entire race. He could manage that. Obviously, we saw him manage it. I do think it'll be probably a little bit easier to overtake. There are straights where you can really, really push cars in front as well. I don't think, Singapore was, really hot and humid and all the air just sort of was trapped in, which sort of made that dirty air effect way more heightened. I don't think you'll get as much of that at Suzuka. So I think even if Ferrari do start high, which I think they could qualify well, they have been known to qualify very, very well. I think they could be more of a sitting duck in the race with their high deg their high deg issues. So I'll say that Norris is in P2 again. He just seems to be on a bit of a roll as well, and that car I expect to be quick here. So yeah.
So then, based on that, your P3 still is very unclear as well. I'll go with your P3 first. What are you thinking?
I've got Lewis Hamilton. I've gone exactly the same predictions that I had last weekend. Worked so well for me.
I didn't expect you to do that. Okay.
Because they're another... I feel like McLaren and Mercedes are... Even though they have slightly different strengths, I think they are very, very similar on pace. Like in terms of their overall pace. And again, I think Hamilton is at the moment, at least in race trim. Russell, obviously, I know he's going to bounce back. He looked pretty quicker than Hamilton over the Singapore weekend. Hamilton on particularly that last set of hards, he did look faster than Russell as well.
True.
I just think in race trim fighting for a podium, I think I see Hamilton there more than I see Russell. I think it could be tight though. Like Piastri, I know if he can actually get some luck and actually qualify in Q3 for once, I feel like he's a very good shout to be up there. I wouldn't even count him off the podium. I definitely could see Russell there. I could still see one of the Ferraris there as well, given how much they've made a jump. Could see Checo there, but I don't know. I don't know.
I know it's hard.
I don't know what's going on.
Confident
in his head
on
at
a
the
call
moment.
like that.
Yeah. So, but I figure, you know what? I expect Max, Norris, Hamilton, all three of them to be strong this weekend. So I'll just stick with what I said last weekend for Singapore.
I think that's a safe bet. I partly went to you because for my third, I've gone for Lando.
Okay.
Partly kind of mimicking what you said in that I think that car's pretty strong. I still think the Mercedes is hard because it always feels like at the end of the weekend you go, yeah, they were really strong, but then they haven't for a little bit like got the results out of it like they used to, or like to the maximum where they could get it. Like when they were a fair bit off the top,
and they were still
it was kind of easy for them to maximize it. Yeah. Well, here it's like their top really is mixing it with like the Ferraris and the McLarens, and it just seems that one or two of them seem to always get out ahead of them. So yeah, I guess Lando, for similar reasons that you said, and part of that on a roll kind of thing. And I guess it was kind of tricky to pick between those two. Though I guess they were my default 2-3. Didn't really know the order, but again, it bit me trying to go, I think, a bit too out there last time. So I think I'm just going with a bit more consistency now, just for the safer bet.
Fair enough.
It's still like, even if you had to predict the top like 6 or 7, like I'd spend years you just roll the dice at some point and just put them whatever order comes up between the rest of them.
Who knows?
But it's not a bad problem to have. It makes it exciting. It means even practice is exciting to see who's doing well, and then into qualifying, of course. It's not uncommon to see any of these bigger guys as well potentially get knocked out just because the whole grid is so close. We're always focusing on the top, but it's still close there. If any of them slip up, there could be the difference between starting 3rd or starting 15th. So
it does seem that way. Like you saw with Piastri starting P17th, and like he should have been Q3. Like obviously that was slightly different scenario, but that's all it takes. So
there's always one or two of them. It wasn't that close for. Not that we want to talk about Singapore that much, but even in a Q2 with that track ramping up, anyone could have fallen out. And they got quite lucky with that red, with the red flag. So
very true.
But
it was.
Yeah, so I still think we're looking forward to a great weekend. It still feels odd that we're getting towards the near-ish end of the calendar, but there's so much happening. There's still a lot to be excited for, and some great races later on as well, which of course we're looking forward to.
It's been a damn good, like you're thinking back, it's been a damn good year for races. Like I feel like every race has had something to talk about. Like it's been probably one, maybe because we're talking a lot about it, so we can deconstruct it a bit more. But I just feel like it's been one of the best, even with Max dominating at the front, it just feels like it's been one of the best seasons.
It just helps it's been close everywhere else.
Exactly.
There's been good stories and
really good.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess look, maybe some thoughts that we're saving for our post-year review, but we talked about these new regulations and the cost cap really starting to take effect this year, and I think a lot of elements now are playing for that. Teams like McLaren, which we're seeing that have come out, from what we were saying was the worst team at the start of the year, that have applied their resources, their money, and their aero perfectly, whereas other teams that started well, like, Aston, which may now have a lot of money, can't just throw it at it to catch up with some errors they've made, so it matters a lot more. And even when we saw in qualifying at parts of Singapore, you can say, oh, you've got some at the back or the front. Sometimes they're separated by like less than a second at a track as technical as Singapore. They're still all so close. You forget how close those margins are, which is when the driver talent, really comes into it, and the mechanics and everyone else. So hopefully we see a repeat of that this weekend. We hope it's nice and close. Generally a good qualifying, because it really is a track where you can just find a lot. Another one, I think we talked about Singapore, where your tyres sometimes can wear off in those first two sectors, so you can lose about at the end. So you've really got to think about how to use those tyres. But it should be a good one. I think we've debriefed well. But we will, final point I've got here, we will be missing Toto, unfortunately, who had a bit of a biking accident during the break, and he has to get some surgery for that. So we hope it all goes well. But we will not see him there, which is, I think, a little sad, because it's nice to see him pop up and give an interview or two. But
I guess anyway, also worth noting that Lawson will still be in for Ricardo. I don't know if we actually mentioned that. He'll still be there. After that, we don't know, but he'll still be there for Japan.
Yep. So. We'll see how he does as well. So anyway, make sure to watch the race if it's hopefully at a decent time zone for you. If not, then make sure to watch it as soon as you can, and then hopefully we'll already have a debrief up ready for you to get all the hot and spicy news and celebrations of a potential Red Bull constructors either won or lost, and Checo thrown into the the crowd by the Honda employees for not giving them their celebrations or end of year bonus or something. But otherwise, that'll do us for now, and we'll catch you as we debrief the Japanese Grand Prix. Ciao.